It's been freezing here the last few days. We got in the worst snowstorm that I've seen in a long time. Upstate New York is no joke sometimes with the snow. But I'm just sitting here in my car on lunch break, and I wanted to make a video about how Eastern developers have been crushing it lately, especially in recent years. I mean, Japan has been at the forefront of video games ever since the 80s. I mean, Nintendo, they almost redefined the way console games were back in the day. With before that, you had Atari. I mean, I never really had an Atari. I played it, but my first console was Nintendo. And like, man, they've been making bangers for decades. Super Mario Brothers, that came out in 85, and that's Nintendo. Legend of Zelda, when it was 86, that was Nintendo. Mega Man in 87, Capcom, they were really killing it in the late 80s, all through the 90s. And they still are today, but man, they were really coming out with some really good hits back in the day. You had Final Fantasy in 87 from Square Enix. Metroid in 86, that was Nintendo. So Nintendo had 3 really good games in a year of them coming out with their Nintendo. I think the Nintendo came out in 85, if I'm not mistaken. Then you had fighting games that came from Capcom. Street Fighter 2, excellent game, that came out in 91. I mean, Tekken from Bandai Namco and Soul Calibur. Tekken, it was in 94, and Soul Calibur, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was 98. Great fighting games. And then you had RPGs that sold really well in the United States. I mean, you had Dragon Quest. I mean, technically, it was Dragon Warrior because it had to be renamed. I guess they had some kind of, like, I don't know, some copyright concerns with the tabletop game called Dragon Quest. So they renamed it Dragon Warrior. But that came out in 89 from Square Enix. That was a great RPG. I remember playing that as a kid. Chrono Trigger 95 from Square Enix. Even decades even later, Persona 5, 2016. Dark Souls in 2011, which basically got from that game alone, well, really Demon Souls, but Dark Souls became super popular from the way the intricate world design of how they like design their worlds. I mean, that game got its own subgenre of the whole Souls-like type genre of games, which I personally like that type of game myself. That's what I pretty much like to play, besides Metroidvanias and stuff like that. But then, yeah, you had Dark Souls in 2011 from Software. That game was just amazing. It was so good. But from there, those were RPGs. And then from there, you had some of the best horror games that came out in the mid-90s, the late 90s. And you had Resident Evil in 96 from Capcom on the original PlayStation. That defined the whole survival horror genre with the way you had limited resources and you had to go through the mansion killing zombies. That was genre defining. Then you had Silent Hill in 1996 from Konami on the PlayStation. I mean, that pioneered psychological horror with the disturbing visuals that they had in that game. The eerie soundtrack, I remember. I was so creeped out as a kid. The storytelling was kind of cryptic, though. I didn't really, it took me years later to be like, oh, okay, cool, that's what the story's about. But and Bloodborne, I consider that to be more of an action horror RPG. Obviously, it's from Software, and that's one of my most favorite games I've ever played from them. All together, that was my first Souls-like, or my first From Software game, And I just love how they combine the gothic horror type game with their type of gameplay. I love that. I just love that game. There's not much I could say about that, but saying how much I love it, I'll just be repeating myself. And where's our Bloodborne remake, PlayStation? Where's my Bloodborne 60 frames? I'm still waiting for it. Come on. But anyways, the Eastern devs have been killing it, even as of recently. I mean, you have Korean devs coming out now with Stellar Blade, which I think originally they were calling that Project Eve. That they announced that in 2019 by Shift Up. And that was like a story-driven RPG. I mean, the story wasn't like a masterpiece or nothing, but I really enjoyed it, what they were trying to do with it. Almost like how, I mean, not to get too spoilery, but I mean, it's basically about humanity being displaced from Earth by an alien force known as the Naytibas. I don't want to say too much more with the story, just in case somebody wants to play it. But man, I played that game 3 times. I beat that game 3 times, and I platinumed that game. I just absolutely love that game. The gameplay for me is like what I like about it the most. To me, it's addicting. I mean, it's fast paced. I love how like you have to master the enemy patterns and the boss's move sets. I like it's not like an RPG, but it definitely has RPG elements in it. I know, and also what I really love about it too, just like the reason why I love the original Dark Souls was the exploration. Like exploring, you get, you get rewarded for exploring, and I think that's what I love about a lot of these types of games. And then from there, you got Liza P. That game is just absolutely amazing. To me, that was like a Bloodborne spiritual successor, even though it's not. But I get a lot of Bloodborne-esque feeling from that game. And I know that's like a reimagining of the classic novel. What was the Adventures of Pinocchio? And I like how it's set against, like, it has a backdrop of the Belle Epoque era. So it almost has like European history in it too. And I really love how they combine those two things together to make it its own story and its own world. And I love what the developers did with Liza P. And I can't wait for Overture to come out this summer. I beat that game twice. I still haven't platinumed it yet, but I'm going to do another new game soon to get myself prepared for the DLC that's coming out. So that's like Korean devs right there. And you got Chinese devs, man. They are killing it too recently. I mean, I just beat, and I'm still playing, I'm about to start New Game Plus of Black Myth Wukong. That's an action RPG. I love that, how that game is about also exploration, and you get rewarded for exploring. I do like how you can do different builds during your playthrough. Like, you're not stuck with one type of build. Like, you can do a few builds in that game. Like, if there's a boss giving you trouble, you could just get all your sparks back and then just do another build to help yourself. There's so many different ways you can do builds, and I love that about that game. There's a lot to it. I know that is like, it's rooted in Chinese mythology. I know it's inspired by the novel Journey to the West, which I've never read the book. And the story, the way the developers told it, I mean, to me it was sort of confusing but I never read the book, so maybe I should. And then you got I mean, that was from Game Science too. They killed it with that game. I can't wait to see what they do next, honestly. Same with Shift Up. I seriously can't wait to see what they do next too. I know that they're coming out with the collaboration with Nikki from the other game that they developed. I'm not really into gacha games, but I guess that's where that's from. Anyways, moving on. Then you got what is it? Marvel Rivals. That dropped recently. What, December last year? I mean, it's a free-to-play game. It's a third-person shooter. I was a developer of NetEase or something. I know it's a 6 versus 6. I mean, I'm not really into that like type of game, Overwatch type. I mean, it's cool. For people who like it. I think they started with like 35 Marvel heroes or something like that, and that game on Steam alone, that game blew up. It's a great looking game, honestly. And then this new game I saw gameplay for recently, I think last week, which I can't remember if it was in the state of play, but I forgot to mention that in my last video about the video I made about the state of play. Tides of Annihilation. They did a gameplay trailer about this upcoming, it's like fantasy action adventure game. I almost get with the combat almost like, I guess it's like Final Fantasy 16 type gameplay, but I see a lot of I don't know, Devil May Cry type game combat in it. It looks really interesting. I can't wait to see what they do. I guess it's a new developer. What is it? Eclipse Glow Games. I think that's the developer, what they're called. I'm pretty excited to see what they're going to do. I know there was a lot of hiccups in that gameplay trailer. I've seen there was a lot of questionable graphics hiccups that I saw, but I mean, it's still in development, so I am pretty excited for what that build they had was. Not going to be the final build, but I like what they're going for in that game. It almost, I saw the one part in the trailer where reality distorted and almost remind me of like Inception, the way like she was running on the side of the buildings, on the walls of the buildings. I mean, and I was, wow, it was pretty exciting about what this developer is going to do. And I don't think there's a release date yet or anything, but I'm very excited about what they're going to do. But overall, I'm pretty excited about what the Eastern developers are doing, have done, but what are doing recently. Because lately, there's been a lot of Western devs and certain games that have not been that great, honestly. I'm just really excited about the future of what the Eastern devs are going to continue to give gamers. And I hope that they really do. If a developer comes out with a good game, I hope they succeed in the sales of the game and succeed in their studio, because you're making games for gamers. You're not making them for the IGNs and all them type of journalists. You're making games for gamers. And I think that's what should come first. Make good gameplay and a decent story, relatively bug-free, like I've always said in most of my other videos. And gamers will enjoy the game, regardless, if it's got those three things. Good gameplay, a decent story, and relatively to no bug-free to no bugs. And I really hope that a lot of Western studios, like, you got these massive studios that are just coming out with the same old, like, corporatized, safe games. I like what these Japanese, Korean, and Chinese developers are doing. They're taking they're taking risks, and they're passionate about what they're making. And for me, that is exciting. And I can't wait to see what the future holds with a lot of these developers, honestly. But, I mean, that's all I have to say about this video today. And I really hope that a lot of these developers like Shift Up and Game Science succeed in what they're doing. So thank you for watching this video. Like if you like it, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.